Teen fisherman in Louisiana found a waterproof bag with $5 million from the Aryan Brotherhood. The morning fog rolled thick across the bayou, turning everything grey and dreamlike as 17-year-old Marcus Thibodeau guided his small fishing boat through the murky waters. He'd been coming to this same stretch of Louisiana swamp since he was 8 years old, learning the channels and hidden spots from his grandfather before the old man passed. Now it was just him, most mornings before school, trying to catch enough catfish and bass to help his mom with the bills. His father had left 3 years ago, and the 2-bedroom house in Terrebonne Parish wasn't going to pay for itself. Marcus cut the motor near a cluster of cypress trees, their roots twisted into the dark water like skeletal fingers. He dropped his line and settled back, listening to the sounds of the swamp waking up around him. The air smelled like wet earth and rotting vegetation, familiar and somehow comforting. He was thinking about the calculus test he had later that day when something caught his eye floating near the bank, partially hidden by water lettuce and duckweed. At first, he thought it might be trash, maybe an old cooler someone had dumped. But as he paddled closer, his curiosity getting the better of him, he realized it was a heavy-duty waterproof bag, the kind military guys used. It was black and sealed tight, caught on a submerged branch. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from viewers around the world. Marcus pulled the bag into his boat with effort. It was heavier than he expected, and his arms strained with the weight. Water dripped from the sealed edges as he set it down carefully on the aluminum floor. His heart was pounding now, though he couldn't say exactly why. Maybe it was the weight, or the way the bag looked so deliberately hidden, not just accidentally lost. He checked over his shoulder, scanning the empty bayou. Nothing but cypress trees and morning mist. His hands shook slightly as he worked the heavy-duty clasps. The bag opened with a hiss of released air, and Marcus felt his entire world tilt sideways. Money, stacks and stacks of $100 bills, wrapped in plastic, perfectly organized. More money than he'd ever seen in his entire life. More money than he could even imagine. His breath came in short gasps as he stared at the contents, his mind racing to calculate how much might be there. 50,000, 100,000. He dug deeper, finding more bundles underneath. His stomach churned with a mixture of excitement and growing dread. There was something else at the bottom, a laminated card that made his blood run cold when he read it. It was a prisoner ID from Louisiana State Penitentiary at Angola, showing a man with a shaved head and cold blue eyes. Across the back, written in permanent marker, were 3 words that changed everything. AB Collection Fund. Marcus had heard enough stories to know what AB meant. The Aryan Brotherhood, one of the most dangerous prison gangs in America, with reach that extended far beyond the concrete walls of Angola. This wasn't just money. This was their money. And someone had either stolen it or hidden it, probably planning to come back for it. He should have thrown the bag back in the water right then. He should have paddled home and forgotten he ever saw it. But Marcus thought about his mother, working double shifts at the hospital, her face grey with exhaustion every night. He thought about their leaking roof, the electricity bill they could barely afford, his college application sitting incomplete because he knew they couldn't pay for it anyway. His hands moved before his brain could catch up, zipping the bag closed and covering it with his rain tarp. He started the motor and headed home, his mind spinning with possibilities and fears. The fog seemed thicker now, oppressive, like it was trying to swallow him whole. The small house on Cypress Lane looked even more run down in the morning light. Paint peeling, gutters sagging, the front steps soft with rot. Marcus's mother's car was already gone. She'd left for her shift at 5 a.m. He carried the bag inside quickly, looking over his shoulder constantly, feeling like he was being watched, even though the street was empty. In his bedroom, he opened the bag again and counted. It took almost an hour. $5 million. Exactly 5 million, organized into 50 bundles of 100,000 each. Someone had been very careful with this money, very organized, which meant they would be very motivated to get it back. Marcus sat on his bed, staring at the fortune spread before him. He knew what the smart play was. Call the police, turn it in, maybe get a reward. But even as he thought it, he knew how that would go. The police would take the money, it would disappear into evidence, and he'd be lucky to see a few $100s. Meanwhile, whoever owned this money would find out who turned it in. They always did. He could keep it, move away with his mom, start over somewhere far from Louisiana. But $5 million doesn't just disappear quietly. People notice when a poor kid from the bayou suddenly has money. Questions get asked. And the Aryan Brotherhood had connections everywhere, especially in the South. The third option was the most dangerous. Return it, find out who it belonged to and give it back, hoping they'd be grateful enough to let him walk away. But how did you even begin that conversation? Marcus spent the day in a daze at school, barely hearing his teachers, jumping at every sound. His best friend Tyler noticed something was wrong at lunch. "You look like you saw a ghost, man," Tyler said, biting into his sandwich. "You sick or something?" "Just tired," Marcus lied. "Bad night." Tyler studied him with concerned eyes. They'd been friends since third grade, had survived everything together, his father leaving, Tyler's brother getting shot in New Orleans, all the struggles of growing up poor in South Louisiana. But this was different. This was the kind of secret that got people killed. That evening, Marcus sat in his room with his laptop, trying to research what to do. Every article he found about the Aryan Brotherhood made his situation seem worse. They were ruthless, organized, and had long memories. Men had been killed for far less than $5 million. He read about their structure, their codes, their methods of retaliation. His phone buzzed. His mother, working late again, leftover gumbo in the fridge. "Love you." Marcus looked at the bag hidden in his closet, then at his mother's text. She deserved better than this life. She deserved a house that didn't leak, a car that didn't break down every month, the ability to retire someday instead of working herself to death. $5 million could change everything for them, but it could also end everything. He made a decision. He would hide the money for now, watch and wait. If nobody came looking, if enough time passed, and it seemed safe, maybe then he could figure out how to use some of it carefully, slowly, just enough to help his mom without raising suspicions. It was a naive plan, born of desperation and 17 years of watching his mother struggle. Marcus would learn soon enough that money like this doesn't stay hidden. Someone was already looking for it, and they were getting closer every day. The next morning, Marcus noticed the black pickup truck parked down the street. It hadn't been there before. 2 men sat inside, watching. They were there when he left for school, and there when he came home. By the third day, Marcus's hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold his fishing rod. His mother noticed. "Baby, what's wrong?" "You're jumping at shadows." "I'm fine, Mama, just stressed about school." She touched his face with her worn hands, hands that had worked so hard for so long. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" Marcus wanted to tell her everything, wanted to collapse into her arms like he was 8 years old again and let her fix it. But this wasn't something she could fix. This was something that could destroy them both. That night, someone knocked on the door at midnight. 3 hard raps that echoed through the small house like gunshots. Marcus sat frozen in his bed, heart hammering against his ribs, his mother's voice confused and frightened. "Who is it?" No answer. Just 3 more knocks, harder this time. Marcus crept to his window and looked out. The black pickup was still there, engine running. And standing at their front door was a man he'd never seen before, tall, heavily muscled, with tattoos crawling up his neck. The kind of man who'd spent serious time in prison. His mother called out again, her voice shakier now. The man at the door didn't move, didn't speak. He just stood there. A silent message. "We know you're in there. We know what you have." Marcus's hands found his phone in the darkness. He had to make a choice, and he had to make it now. Call the police, and hope they arrived in time. Run and leave his mother alone with these men, or open the door and face whatever came next. The knocking stopped. Marcus heard footsteps walking away, the truck door slamming, the engine fading into the distance, but he knew they'd be back. This was just the beginning. His mother appeared in his doorway, her face pale in the dim light from the hallway. "Marcus, what's going on? Who were those men?" He looked at her tired eyes, her worried expression, and knew his decision had already cost more than money. It had cost them their safety, their peace, and before this was over, it might cost them everything. "Mama," he said quietly, his voice breaking, "I need to tell you something, and you're going to be scared, but I promise I'm going to fix this." She sat down on his bed, and Marcus began to talk. He told her about the bag, the money, the men watching their house. With every word, he watched his mother's face transform from confusion to horror, to something that looked like resignation. When he finished, she was silent for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. "Where is it now?" "Hidden." "In my closet." She stood up slowly, moved to the closet, and pulled out the waterproof bag. She opened it, stared at the money, then closed it again. When she turned back to him, her expression was harder than he'd ever seen it. "Tomorrow," she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "We're going to figure out who this belongs to, and we're going to give it back. Mama, they might kill us anyway." "They'll definitely kill us if we keep it," she said. "At least this way, we have a chance." Marcus didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed listening to every sound, every car that passed, every creak of the house settling. The money sat in his closet like a bomb waiting to explode. And somewhere out in the darkness, men with tattoos and dead eyes were planning their next move. By morning, Marcus had aged years. He understood now what his grandfather used to say about the bayou. It could give you life, but it could just as easily swallow you whole. He'd pulled something out of those dark waters that should have stayed buried, and now he had to find a way to put it back before it dragged him under. His mother made coffee with shaking hands, neither of them speaking. The black truck was back, parked in the same spot, waiting, watching. The men inside knew they had time. They knew Marcus and his mother had nowhere to run. Marcus thought about Tyler, about school, about the normal life he'd had just days ago. All of it felt impossibly distant now, like it had happened to someone else. The boy who went fishing that morning was gone, replaced by someone harder, more afraid, more aware of how quickly everything could fall apart. "I have an idea," his mother said suddenly, setting down her coffee cup. "Your Uncle Ray, he did time at Angola back in the day, before he got clean, before he straightened out. He might know how to handle this." Marcus remembered Uncle Ray vaguely, his mother's younger brother, who'd turned his life around after a drug conviction. He ran a car repair shop now in Houma, kept to himself, didn't talk much about his past. But if anyone understood the rules of this world, the protocols of prison gangs and criminal enterprises, it would be him. "You think he'll help us?" "I think he won't let us die if he can help it," she said. "Family is family." They left the house through the back door, cutting through neighbors' yards to avoid the men watching out front. His mother's car was parked 2 streets over, hidden behind a convenience store. They drove to Houma in silence, both of them checking the rear-view mirror constantly for signs of being followed. Uncle Ray's shop was a squat concrete building with 3 garage bays, oil stains darkening the cracked parking lot. He was under a Honda when they arrived, his legs sticking out, radio playing classic rock. Marcus's mother called out his name, and he rolled out on a creeper, his face confused until he saw their expressions. "Claire, what's wrong?" She told him everything while Marcus stood there feeling like a child again, helpless and stupid. Uncle Ray's face grew darker with each sentence. When she finished, he stood up slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. "Of all the things to find, you know what the AB does to people who take their money?" "We didn't take it," Marcus said defensively. "I found it." "You think they care about the distinction?" Uncle Ray said, but his voice wasn't cruel, just tired. Okay, let me think." He paced the garage for a minute, his boots crunching on the gritty floor. Finally, he stopped and looked at them both. "I know a guy," he said. "He used to run with some serious people before he got out. He's connected enough to get word to the right people without getting you killed. But you have to understand, even if we return this money, there's no guarantee they'll just let you walk away. They might think you took some. They might want to make an example. This is dangerous territory." "More dangerous than keeping it?" Claire asked. "No," Ray admitted. "Keeping it is suicide. At least this way, you have a chance." He looked at Marcus directly. "You understand what you're getting into, kid. Once we start this, there's no going back. You'll be dealing with people who see violence as a business tool. They won't care that you're 17. They won't care about your mother. All they'll care about is their money and their reputation." Marcus swallowed hard and nodded. "I understand." "Then get the money and bring it here. We've got work to do." The drive back to Terrebonne Parish felt longer than it should have. The black truck was still there, the men inside watching their empty house. Marcus and his mother parked 3 blocks away and approached from the back again, moving quickly through yards and alleys. They grabbed the bag from Marcus's closet, and this time when they left, they weren't coming back. Not until this was resolved one way or another. His mother packed a small bag with clothes and essentials. "We'll stay with your Aunt Marie in Lafayette," she said, "until Ray tells us it's safe." Marcus took one last look at his room, his bed, his books, the fishing rod in the corner. Everything looked different now, smaller somehow, like it belonged to someone else's life. He wondered if he'd ever see it again. Back at the shop, Uncle Ray had made his call. "My contact is setting up a meeting," he said. "Tonight, neutral ground. You give them the money, they verify it's all there, and hopefully, that's the end of it." "Hopefully," Claire said. Ray shrugged. "There are no guarantees in this world, Claire. You know that." They spent the day at the shop, waiting, Marcus's anxiety building with each hour. Uncle Ray tried to distract him by showing him how to rebuild a carburetor, but Marcus couldn't focus. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. Around 5 p.m., Ray's phone buzzed. "They're ready," he said. "Abandoned warehouse off Highway 90, just past Morgan City. 9 p.m. You bring the money. They bring confirmation from their people. No cops, no weapons." "Just you and me." "What about me?" Claire asked. "You stay here. If something goes wrong, Marcus and I don't come back. You take what cash I have in the safe and you run. Go to your sisters, go to Texas, go anywhere. But you don't wait around for them to find you." Claire's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. She pulled Marcus into a tight hug, holding him like she might never let go. "You come back to me," she whispered. "You hear me? Whatever happens, you come back." "I will, Mama. I promise." It was a promise he hoped he could keep. The drive to Morgan City was quiet, the waterproof bag sitting between them like a third passenger. Uncle Ray drove carefully, checking mirrors, taking random turns to make sure they weren't being followed. The sun was setting over the Louisiana wetlands, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. It should have been beautiful, but Marcus could barely see it. His mind was stuck on what was coming next. The warehouse was exactly what Marcus expected from crime movies. Rusted metal walls, broken windows, weeds growing through cracks in the pavement. 2 vehicles were already there, a black SUV and a motorcycle. 3 men stood waiting, illuminated by headlights. One of them was the man who'd knocked on their door at midnight. Uncle Ray parked 20 feet away and turned off the engine. "Let me do the talking," he said. "You just stay calm and don't make any sudden moves. These guys are paranoid as hell. One wrong twitch and this could go sideways fast." They got out slowly, Marcus carrying the bag. His legs felt weak, like they might give out at any moment. The 3 men watched them approach, faces hard and unreadable. The one from his house stepped forward. He was even bigger up close, his neck tattoos visible in the harsh light, swastikas and lightning bolts, the symbols of the Brotherhood. "You Ray Thibodeau?" he asked. "That's me. And this is my nephew Marcus, the one who found your bag." The man's eyes fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made him want to run. "Found it where?" "In the bayou," Marcus said, his voice surprisingly steady. "Near Terrebonne Parish, caught on a branch. I didn't know what it was until I opened it." "And you just decided to return it out of the goodness of your heart?" There was no mistaking the skepticism in his voice. "He's a smart kid," Uncle Ray said. "He knows what happens to people who take what doesn't belong to them, especially from your organization." The man studied them both for a long moment. Then he gestured to Marcus. "Open it." Marcus set the bag down and unzipped it. The man knelt down, pulled out several bundles, and checked them carefully. He made a phone call, speaking in low tones Marcus couldn't quite hear. One of the other men moved behind them, cutting off their escape route. Marcus's heart hammered so hard he thought it might burst through his chest. After what felt like an eternity, the man hung up and stood. "It's all here," he said. 5 million, exactly what went missing." "So we're good?" Uncle Ray asked. "The kid made a mistake, but he corrected it. We square?" The man didn't answer immediately. He looked at Marcus again, really looked at him, like he was trying to see inside his skull. "How old are you?" 17. "You go to school? Got a family?" "Yes, sir. My mom works at the hospital. I help with bills by fishing." "And you didn't take any of this? Not even one bundle? $5 million sitting there, and you didn't take even a little taste?" Marcus shook his head. "No, sir. I thought about it. I won't lie, but I knew it would just bring trouble." The man laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Smart kid, smarter than most." He picked up the bag and walked it back to the SUV. The other men relaxed slightly, hands moving away from whatever weapons they had hidden. "Here's how this works," the man said, turning back to them. "You've done us a favor by returning this. A lot of guys would have run with it or gone to the cops. Either way would have caused problems, so I'm going to give you a pass. But understand something, you don't talk about this. Not to your friends, not to your teachers, not to anybody. This never happened. You understand?" "Yes, sir," Marcus said quickly. "I understand. And if I ever hear that you told this story, if I ever hear our name come out of your mouth in any context, the deal is off. We clear?" "Crystal clear." The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a thick envelope. He handed it to Uncle Ray. 5,000 for the trouble and for keeping your mouth shut." Uncle Ray took it without comment. The men got into their vehicles and drove away, leaving Marcus and his uncle standing in the empty parking lot, the dust settling around them. Marcus's legs finally gave out, and he sat down hard on the concrete, his whole body shaking with released tension. "Is it over?" he asked. Uncle Ray looked at the envelope, then at his nephew. "Yeah, kid, I think it is. You got lucky, really lucky." They drove back to Houma in silence. Claire was waiting at the shop, pacing frantically. When she saw them walk in alive and unhurt, she burst into tears and pulled Marcus into another crushing hug. "It's okay, Mama," Marcus said, his own eyes burning. "It's over. We're okay." That night they stayed at Uncle Ray's house, too scared to go back home yet. Marcus lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in his mind. The weight of the bag, the stacks of money, the cold eyes of the Brotherhood member. How close he'd come to making a choice that would have destroyed everything. In the morning, Uncle Ray made breakfast, while Claire called work to say she needed a few days off. Marcus sat at the kitchen table, exhausted but alive. "What are you going to do with the 5,000? He asked his uncle. Ray set down a plate of eggs and bacon. "I'm giving it to you. To your mom, actually. For bills, for the roof. Whatever you need. You earned it by not being an idiot." "Ray, you don't have to—" Claire started. "Yeah, I do. You're my sister. And this kid just learned one of the hardest lessons there is, that some opportunities are really just traps. That's worth something." Marcus thought about that as he ate, about how close he'd come to taking the bait, to thinking he could outsmart dangerous people, about how his stupid decision to open that bag had almost gotten him and his mother killed. "Uncle Ray," he said quietly, "thank you for helping us, for knowing what to do." Ray smiled, and it was the first real smile Marcus had seen from him. "That's what family is for, kid. Besides, you did the hard part. You made the right choice when it mattered. Not everyone can say that." They went home 2 days later. The black truck was gone, the men with it. Life slowly returned to a cautious normal. Marcus went back to school, back to fishing, back to helping his mother with bills. But he was different now, more careful, more aware of how quickly everything could change. Tyler noticed. "You seem different, man, like you've seen some stuff." Marcus just smiled. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, that's all, about what's important." "And what's that?" "Family, safety, not taking shortcuts." He looked at his friend seriously. "Sometimes the smart play is the boring play, you know? Sometimes the adventure isn't worth the risk." Tyler didn't understand, but that was okay. Marcus hoped he never would. The $5,000 helped. They fixed the roof, paid down some bills, and Marcus's mother was able to cut back to single shifts for a while. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was enough. And more importantly, it came without the weight of guilt or fear attached to it. Months passed. Marcus finished his junior year with good grades. He kept fishing the bayou, but he never went back to that particular spot near the cypress trees. Some places held memories he didn't want to revisit. One morning, about 6 months after returning the money, Marcus was leaving for school when he noticed an envelope taped to their front door. No name, no address. Just a plain white envelope. His heart started racing as he opened it, expecting a threat, a reminder to keep quiet. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. "You proved yourself trustworthy. That's rare. If you ever need help, real help, call this number." Below it was a phone number, nothing else. Marcus stared at it for a long time. Then he folded the paper carefully and put it in his wallet. He didn't know if he'd ever call it. He hoped he'd never need to, but it was strange comfort knowing it was there, that his choice to do the right thing, even when it was terrifying, had earned him something more valuable than money. It had earned him respect from people who rarely gave it. His mother asked about the envelope at dinner that night. "Nothing important," Marcus lied. "Just some junk mail." She studied his face, then nodded slowly. She knew he was hiding something, but she trusted him. That trust meant more to Marcus than any amount of money. That night, standing on their fixed porch under stars that seemed brighter than before, Marcus thought about the waterproof bag and its $5 million. He thought about the crossroads he'd stood at, the choice between easy money and hard truth. And he realized that finding that bag in the bayou wasn't bad luck at all. It was a test, a brutal, terrifying test of character. He'd passed. Barely. But he'd passed. The bayou still called to him in the mornings, its dark waters holding secrets he'd never know. But Marcus had learned his lesson. Some treasures were better left buried, some doors were better left unopened, and sometimes the bravest thing you could do was walk away from everything you thought you wanted. He went fishing the next day, like always, but this time, when his line snagged on something heavy, he didn't investigate. He cut the line and moved to a different spot. Whatever was down there could stay down there. He'd had enough adventure to last a lifetime. Marcus graduated high school the following year. He got a partial scholarship to LSU, working part-time to cover the rest. His mother was there at graduation, crying happy tears, Uncle Ray beside her looking proud. Tyler went off to community college, still Marcus's best friend, still unaware of how close they'd both come to disaster. Years later, Marcus would sometimes pull out that folded piece of paper from his wallet and look at the phone number. He never called it. Never needed to. But keeping it reminded him of who he was, of the choice he'd made when everything was on the line. He became a marine biologist, studying the ecosystems of Louisiana's wetlands. He spent his days in the bayou, but now he was documenting life instead of taking it. He married a teacher from Baton Rouge, had 2 kids, and built a life that was simple and good. Sometimes, very rarely, he'd be out on the water and spot a black pickup truck on a distant road, and his heart would skip a beat, but the truck would always pass by without slowing. A reminder that some debts stayed paid, some promises kept. And sometimes, on quiet mornings when the fog rolled thick across the water, Marcus would think about that waterproof bag and wonder what happened to the men who'd hidden it there, where they were now. If they ever thought about the kid who gave it back. If they knew how much that money had almost cost him, but mostly he thought about his mother's face the day he told her the truth. The fear in her eyes, but also the trust. She'd believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. That was worth more than $5 million, worth more than anything. The bayou kept its secrets, as it always had. But Marcus had learned to keep his too. The story of that morning, that bag, those men, it lived only in his memory and in the memories of the few people who'd helped him survive it. He taught his children to fish in those same waters, showing them the channels and hidden spots his grandfather had shown him. But he taught them something else too. He taught them that integrity wasn't about being perfect. It was about making the right choice when it counted, even when, especially when, it was the hardest thing in the world to do. And on mornings when his son or daughter would catch something unusual, something that didn't belong, Marcus would say the same thing every time: throw it back. Some catches aren't worth keeping. They'd look at him strangely, not understanding. But someday, maybe they would. Someday they might face their own test, their own waterproof bag full of temptation, and maybe, just maybe, they'd remember their father's words and make the choice that kept them alive. The Louisiana sun rose over the bayou, burning away the morning fog, revealing the world in all its complexity, danger and beauty, opportunity and trap, all mixed together in the dark water. Marcus guided his boat home, his children laughing in the stern, and felt the weight he'd carried for so long finally lift. He'd been tested by fire and come through intact, not unscathed. You never walked away from something like that without scars, but intact, still himself, still the kid who'd learned to fish from his grandfather, who'd helped his mother pay bills, who'd chosen honor over easy money. That was enough. That would always be enough. The bayou whispered its secrets to the wind, and the wind carried them away. Some stories needed to be told, others needed to be buried as deep as that waterproof bag had been, hidden in the dark water where they belonged. Marcus had made his choice. He'd lived with it. And in the end, that choice had given him something $5 million never could: the ability to sleep peacefully at night, knowing he'd looked into the abyss and turned away. That was the real treasure. Not the money in the bag, but the strength to give it back.